Alright guys, hello and welcome. This is the Siberian here on my latest battle map, the Battle of Malplaquet or something like that. I don't know, it's Dutch, French, something. So it's unpronounceable to my American sensibilities, but this was the bloodiest battlefield of the 18th century, so in that 100 years. This was the bloodiest battle. This is a 4v4 map I've been working on for a while, slowly chipping away at, and yeah, it's just about done. It's not completely fixed, as you can see. There's some things like this that don't look the nicest, but in due time, those will come. Welcome to part 3 of the map making tutorial. I just wanted to show you guys what's possible. So this is a 4v4 map this is the actual town of Malplaquet, something like that. And this is with a little mod I've been playing around with creating. It's basically oriented towards multiplayer and a little simpler, and yeah, it's just a thought, an idea I had, so I made some units. But yeah, so this map stretches all the way back to here, where is one deployment zone back here, one over here, right here, and then in this corner as well. Ooh, sorry, that was an abrupt turn. So we have everything from a forest terrain with some nice roads going through them to another forest, and then this big gap between. And how I would envision it working in multiplayer if we ever get... I really want to make an Empire Total War multiplayer mod that's used like NTW3 almost, but without the mass ton of units. But how it would work is these would have point values to capture and hold. And yeah, you can see I have some skirmish Cossacks that really tore through that provincial cavalry over there. But yeah, this is what we can do. So I'm getting better. So before we jump too much further, I just want to jump into some things I've learned since the last video to maybe help correct or make things better. So let's go ahead and jump to that. Alright, here we are back in our map tutorial file, and just wanted to run you guys through some of what I've learned. The first one, and this is the biggest one because I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to get height maps like this not look super rigid, or like having ridges in them. Stair step, I guess you could call it. And the solution, really, the best solution I found, and it is quite effective, as you've seen with my last map that I was showing. Oops. Is if you vary your height map color range. So you want your darks to be very dark and your lights to be very light, and I could have even done more to make it smoother. Basically how the engine works is it takes the pixel value from black to white, and there's like 240 something values spaced in between that, and based off of that pixel value it gives the height. So if you have all kind of like our current map tutorial pack, I didn't vary the height map color or range very much. Go to 0. So the water's dark, but these light spots aren't that light, and so that makes the terrain more of a stair step because you're only working with a small range of your potential range of values. So that's something to keep in mind when you're working with height maps. Yeah, that's, I'd say, the biggest correction from the last couple of videos. So today we're gonna jump right into the next parts. I'm hoping that I can finish all of them in this video. I better not tarry any longer. And let's just get to it. So we're going to be working with more text files this time than we have in the last, although we still are going to do a tree list and a building list. So let's start with the definition XML. This text file gives your basic information for your map. This will come into play later, as if you don't want this climate, we'll have to change that, but we'll do that when we get to trees. And you'll want to pretty much copy the example I have here. Now you can do simple color blending, which will help make your color maps a little less sharp-edged, whatever you would like. But yeah, these are the settings I have found the most helpful. I'm not perfectly sure what additive type and terrain type do, although I know they do affect how your height map is rendered. I tend to leave it like this, but you can mess with it. So just make sure you have something along these lines, and you can change this to summer, winter, and you can even add the line has snow, as is popping up, and then do a Boolean value here, so true or false, if you want to make a winter map with snow. All right. Next we have the environment, which what's included says Fraustat, or it's a different environment name. So first step I'm going to do is right click and rename, because this is not Fraustat, this is Helsingborg. We're going to call it Helsingborg environment. There we go. This has a lot of technical stuff that I don't always use. Fog distance is nice. You can make it a foggy map or a not foggy map, and it's not 100% chance that it will render the fog, because there's some randomness to how foggy it says it is. But this is a good control there. Likewise, you can control some of the bloom and all of that type of setting. I tend to leave the lighting the same, because what is there seems to work well for me. The cloud elements I haven't really messed with too much, as I can't get noticeable differences in results. I thought it might be a Napoleon only thing, but I also found some custom maps for Empire that have the same thing, so I've just left them there, and they are what they are. Down here you can set the wind level. I think it goes up to wind level 4, but you might want to check that. I have ambient fog listed as well. And as long as all of that's good, there's not too much tweaking you have to do. I just make sure that's called Helsingborg.environment. Because when you do that, you can jump down to your weather. And this is where you can control some things. So if it's a cold map, you can add cold fatigue. And that's why some units will have resistance to cold fatigue. And then in here, we want to change our environment key to what our new environment is. So our preset is this folder here. The next folder we want to go into is Helsingborg. Wow, I always typed the V. Helsingborg, and then it's Helsingborg.environment. You don't have to change the name of the environment, but I find it helps my organization to just harmonize names like that. All right, we're gonna save that and jump to textures. This will provide an underlay texture that adds some variation and just like the fine details of your battle maps. I almost never mess with this. I've changed this before and it works, but you have to go through these file orders and find one that you would rather have. In general, these settings work. I leave them there. Same exact thing with the sound emitter. I don't really mess with them too much. The generic sounds work well. So, deployment areas we can do in a minute. But the next big step is going to be getting a tree list and a building list. So, we're going to jump right into that. Starting with tree list. Let's start with no, actually, you know what? We're going to start with a building list. For building lists, I use HiBAM version 4_0. That should be linked in the description. You can download it there. After you install it, it's a simple matter of opening it up and beginning. So I go over here to this right side, hit load map, and we want to find our color map that we have built. So in the last episode or maybe it was the first one, I honestly don't remember. Where is Helsingborg? There we go. And I just select color map 1. Or sorry, not 1. Don't do color map 1. Color map 0. And there we go. We have it pulled up. And we can scroll around like this. See out where we put the rivers and all of that. Now this has got a lot of cityscape in the modern version, so we might have to do some changes there. But how you place buildings with this is first you go to the buildings tab. And this is where we control what buildings get placed. So in this, there's a whole list of so many buildings. The hard part, or the tricky part, is not all of these buildings will work. Some of them won't have preview images, like down here. That doesn't necessarily mean they won't work, but it's more likely. And some of them are only for Napoleon, so if you put it in, it will crash your game when you try to load. What I've found is using either North European or South European or West European houses, and then at the bottom of houses there's huts. These are like the more rural places, but not truly rural, so you get some nice kind of suburb homes. Oops, I did the same one. And then rural 1, 2, and 3 are more like your farmhouse feels, if that makes sense. So you get some variation. Whichever one you want to put is up to you. And the feel you want in this place. South European will be more like Italy feel. And the architecture will reflect that you can see there. But we're going to just start with, we'll do North European. Where is that? There we go, North European. And we can just place down some buildings. So how you do that is you select one, North Euro House 1. And you just click where you want it to be placed. That might take a couple clicks, but there you go. That's right there is saying that that's the dimensions roughly of our building. And then if you go over here to this slider scale, you can change the orientation of the building. Now, it's not the most dynamic system at all, but it works better than anything else I can find. So you just go through placing buildings where you want them, how you want them. The only tricky parts are some of the churches don't work, I've noticed, and not all of the buildings are occupiable. It'll tell you, so if I click on house 10 here, it said the occupiable thing here is not checked. That means nobody can occupy that building. But if we find something like building 1, this is occupiable, so that means your troops can occupy it. I like to spread some of those around because they add a very interesting feel to the battle. if you mess up, so say I didn't want this building here actually, you just mouse over to delete selected building and hit it. If you placed a building and then you place this one and you decide, actually I don't like this little one here, in order to select it, you just mouse over until it turns blue, and then you've got it selected. And then you can change its angle again and do that. So that's the process. I'm just going to put a couple of houses here real quick, and then we'll jump into the game and check them out. Change the angle, whatnot. Here's the next important step. After you've placed a few houses, not your whole map, you want to do it in chunks at a time, save a CSV building list. I just call it buildings v1. Save it. That is what you can use to reload these buildings that you've placed back into this program. So say we close out and then we want to come back another day. You load in your color map again, but the buildings won't be there because the data wasn't stored with that picture. You have to navigate to buildings and click open building list. That'll be this CSV file, which is just a list. And once we get down to the right spot, I don't remember exactly where, but let's place a building. Once you place something, the building should return. Ah, yeah, there they are. A lot further down than I expected, so I'm going to delete that one. Anyways, as you add more buildings and you test it out and all the buildings work without crashing the game, then you can save a V2, and that way you have multiple iterations you can jump back to check out. Once we have our buildings done though, we want to click Save BMD Building List. And this is the name of the file we're going to want to do it, but not here. We want to do it in the correct folder, Helsingborg. All right, BMD _ near _ buildings .building _ list. That's the exact file format you want to save your BMD building list here as. So I'm going to replace it. It's saved, and we're going to jump into our Rusted Pack File Manager. Right click, add file, and we're in map tutorial. Oh, this is the wrong one. Desktop. Navigate to your folder, and I have a near buildings list. That's the one I just saved. Open that up. There's no preview or anything, so you can't really know if it worked, but you just have to save it, install, and then jump into the game to test it. So let's do that now. Alright, here we are in the battle map, and it looks like I underestimated the width of the river. It's been a while since we've been here, but you can see some of the stair-step terrain issue that I was talking about. But the buildings did get placed, just not far enough away from the water. These guys are having a bad day if they're still living at home. Oh, that one I didn't even see. But yeah, that's the process for building buildings. One thing I will say is if you're in sharp terrain, they will hover like this. And AI has a hard time pathfinding. What I've done to rectify that is surround where I have dense city blocks. Surround it with, it's called log piles. Prop field log pile. Here, I'll show it in a second on the screen. But it's placed like a building, and it just prevents the AI from walking in these gaps and then getting caught. It's very helpful. So that's the process. We won't go through the whole building of the map right now because I ain't got time for that. We gotta keep it moving. But there it is. Buildings are placed. So like I was saying, if you go here and down to prop field, There's all these prop fields and prop towns work, so that's a good thing to add detail. But log pile 1, 2, and 3, even though there's no picture, you can place them and just kind of ring your towns with them. It's a lot of little work, but it really helps the AI with pathfinding. If you leave gaps though in those, then it's really bad. So take what you will from that. But that's it for buildings. You guys know the drill. You can figure it out from there. You have the basics. The next step will be getting a tree list in here. So in order to do that, I do like to keep HiBAM open, but I manually place the trees with a different setup. So in HiBAM, I go to the tree list and then I select a, I don't know, what is this? I keep wanting to say humidity, but that's not what it is. Environment, basically. In fact, it has a name. This is really going to bug me. Sorry. Definition. Climate. There we go. I select a climate. Since this is in the north, we'll do this one. LCEU, north humid. Not central. North. There we go. These are some nice trees in there. There's a good variety. Not all of the pictures work, so just be mindful of that. But we'll do most of our work in GIMP. So what I'm gonna do is just we'll open up an old oh, I don't have it. We'll open up browse stat. Do I have a trees list? Oh, it's a JPEG. Yeah, we'll make a new one. Go to GIMP, go File, New. As long as it's square, the size doesn't matter too much. So let's do 2048 by 2048. It's a good size. And when we save this, we'll want to save it as a PNG. But first things first, we want to make sure the background is completely white. And then we're going to place, well, first we have to manipulate our color map to be usable. So once again, navigate to your folder, so Helsingborg, and I'm gonna right click on our color map, open with GIMP. That should pull it up in GIMP. There we go. Here it is. The interesting thing is with the Lord's tools, the Y is reversed. So both for the height, or not the height map, for the deployment zones and for the tree list generator, you gotta do a little manipulation to get it to work. So I go to Image, Transform, and flip vertically. That way the Y's are flipped around, and that's just how the program reads them. So we're gonna save this as a tree. Sure, we'll just do tree. Doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna save it back into that folder, and this will be our reference for where we place trees. So we're gonna close this, pull up our Helsingborg, and look for our tree. There it is. I'm gonna take that and drop it into, or onto, our new white background. And I did 2048 because that's the size of this thing here, so that helps make things even. You can always resize this by right-clicking, scale layer, and then set it to whatever your current layer is. We're gonna drop down the opacity so we can see the white through it. Make sure your background is selected. And it's time to place trees. To place trees, we grab our pencil tool. If you don't know how to do that, just left click and hold and all the different tools will come up. Go to pencil. We want to make sure hardness is all the way forward, force is all the way forward, and opacity is all the way forward, 100% for all of those. Then we're going to pick our colors. So the easiest way I've found to do it is just get 100% red first. Drop this down to 1 pixel pencil. Once we have that, we are ready to start placing trees. So if we go back to HiBAM and look, we have a fern shrub and an azalea shrub. So we have 2 different types of shrubs, and the rest are all trees, different variations of trees. Now, not all the trees work all the time. Most do, though. So I tend to use red and green as shrubs. That's just my habit, so that I know Christmas colors are shrubs. And to do Christmas colors, or to do shrubs, I always put them near water sources. So you just start planting them. Every pixel of this will translate to a shrub. So to make things more visible, let's just pick a field somewhere near the river, like this, and we can make a shrub hedge around it. Now we'll do one hedge like this. So you can individually click like I'm doing right now, or what I find very helpful is going over to the spacing section, double clicking on the numbers and typing in a value. So let's try 500. The value of 500, if I click and hold and drag my mouse around, the shrubs get placed at this precise distance, 500 pixels from the last one, or 500, whatever this unit is. So for a hedge, maybe I want it 250. Let's try that. We try that from there. All right, that's still pretty spaced out, but it'll work. Let's try 150. You don't want to just draw a solid line because you want there to be some variation. So I really like that. I think that's a good look for a hedge. So we'll just line that little road there with a hedge. And yeah, you want to detail all throughout the map on your white background where you want things. So, and once again, to change the colors, you have your RGB files here, or channels. Maybe I want to do green next because that's my other hedge type. We'll do another hedge type or shrub type right here, and I just make it 100% green. The values aren't super important as long as they're distinct from each other. So we'll do that. Now we have multiple tree types. I usually just use 2 or 3. So I can do, we've done red, green. Let's do blue for our primary tree type. This would be like wherever we have forests. And that's a little too dense, right? That'd be a lot of trees really close together. So let's jump our spacing up to 800. See how that looks. Even that might be a little dense for our forest, but you can draw a forest that way. A bunch of little blue dots. Right, and we'll just do a couple little forests. Oops. And now that we've used all the 3 primary color channels, let's do the 2 at a time. So this will be our teal or cyan. And maybe those trees will be like in the forest, but also near water. So whenever we have some water, we can do some of these trees, and you can change the tree type. And then we'll do a yellow one as well. That'll be, there we go, red and green. And maybe those are like the kind of trees that you farmers put along the edge of their fields, you know, to stop the wind. And maybe I want those some of them spaced out like that, or some of them a lot closer. Let's try 500 to make a more significant barrier. All of this is just a lot of experimentation and fun. This is the fun part. Right? So you can line roadways. That looks really cool to march through. Yeah. So we'll just call that good. We have our colors saved here. So the next step will just be to file, export as, and make sure it's in the correct spot. And I'm just going to call this trees v1. And make sure it's not a JPEG, but a PNG. PNGs just store individual pixel data better. JPEGs tend to blur things a little, so you get a lot of color variation. So save your new tree file in there. And now we're going to convert it into a tree list. So we go to the Lords tools. Lord Z at Lords. I don't know how you say it, but the Lord Z tree editor. That's the one we want. Which brings up this little guy. So from this, we want to go File, Import Image. We want to make sure we have the correct folder. Helsingborg. And just find that last trees v1 that you just created. Gonna take a second to import. Boom, and now it has some gibberish values. Well, what these are your RGB and alpha channels. So this alpha with all three colors combined makes a white. That's our background. The first step is find the one that has all three values at 255 maxed out, and just hit remove tree type. The next step is we got to assign values to where these pixels are placed. So in this case, we have an alpha value up. They'll all have alpha values up, and just a red, no green or blue. That's going to be our red individual pixels. So when we click on that, we want to make red pixels into shrubs. We remember that? Red and green for me is what I do as shrubs. So let's try this as the fern shrub. So with HiBAM open, the correct climate selected, got to match the climate that you have in your definition. Oh, which I haven't done, so let's do that. LC EU, and then what was it? Something north? Humid north? Oh, that's the wrong one. LC EU north humid. Okay. So LC EU north humid. If you don't match the climate in your definitions file, it won't load the trees. It only loads trees from that set climate. Now we want to pull up these two again, and go ahead and type in our first shrub type, which will be this fern. So you have to type the whole thing. LC underscore EU underscore north humid dash, no space, capital fern shrub. Make sure you get all the spelling and caps right, or else it won't work. I'm gonna go ahead and hit Control C to copy that, just so we don't have to type the whole thing again. And there we go. Fern shrub saved. Now we want to find the green value, as that was our other shrub type. So here it is. Red 0, blue 0, but green is all the way up. I'm gonna paste in my thing, but we don't want more fern shrubs. We want a different shrub. We want the azalea. So I'll just backspace this part and type in the new shrub type. And save that again. And you just do the same process for your different trees. So our blue tree will be a common tree. And if you want to see what they look like, you can click on them. We'll do the alder, since it says it's common, as our blue one. So paste that in. Get rid of fern shrub. And common underscore alder tree. Save that. Green and blue will make our cyan teal thing. Let's do a fun one. What's a nice looking tree? English oak. Oh, there's another shrub there you could use. We'll do an elm tree. Why not? So go ahead and paste that. Same exact process. Elm tree. One thing I've noticed is this blue spruce, there's a typo in HiBAM, so that blue needs an underscore and then the spruce. But yeah, elm tree. And the last one, we'll just call it English oak. So paste. And English oak tree. After that, you have all these values translated to a name of a tree. You can go File, Save List. If you want to save it as a thing that's easier to open again, you can export it as a CSV, just like the buildings. In this case, I'm just going to save the list. It's going to be called bmd.treelist in the right folder, Helsingborg for us. Replace. And now we're going to add that. Helsingborg BMD tree list. There we go. Save it. Install. And we'll want to jump in and make sure it works. So let's do that now. Alright, here we are. I just loaded back into the game and we can already see, oh, we have a little ripple. But we can already see our trees are working. Here's the ones lining the road. A little tight, but still not a bad look. Did our shrubs load? There's our forest. I forgot to mix up the tree types in there. Oh yes, here's some shrubbery. So it looks like our ferns loaded well there. And whoa, these ones are bushy. You can't see very distinct things, but yeah, so that's all there really is. You'll just want to detail your map, and remember to, in your blend map, designate forests with the red color, or else units won't hide or be slowed down by them, as would feel natural. But yeah, I tend to put a lot of trees and shrubs near waterways, and then in pockets in forests. I don't know, we won't run through, just like the buildings, the whole situation with that, but you guys can now explore, now that you have the information needed, that process. So we just have a couple more things to explain, and then you guys are well on your way to creating beautiful maps. Look at these underwater ferns. That's where the rest are. Anyways, let's get back and finish this sucker up. Alright, all we have left, we've done all of this, and the definition, we've done grass map, height maps. So all we have left is getting an appropriate screenshot, and deployment areas. Let's jump into deployment areas first and end with the screenshot. So I also use the Lord's deployment area editor. So if we go to the Lord's tools, which will be linked again in the description, I go to the deploy zone editor, open that up. We want to go file, open image. You want to go back to your Helsingborg. And once again, you're going to want the upside down version of your color map. So that's, I named tree. So we'll open that up. For some reason, the deployment zone editor does inverted X or Y values. You just got to keep that in mind. The other thing you want to keep in mind is the number of players. So if you want it to be a 3v3, you got to make sure that box is checked. If you want it to be available as a 1v1, a 2v2, and a 3v3, you just got to check all the boxes. So in this case, our map is 3v3 only. So that's all we have to worry about. So make sure it's checked, not just blue, but check mark is there. And then we simply go through and set them. So as you can see, there's boxes that appear when I click on player 1. We're going to need to change those. So these are our means of doing it. So for a width, we can go, let's try 300 and half of that for the height, 150. We hit set, that will be reflected in our new little box. Now that's out in the ocean, so we're gonna have to move it to the right. Now this is X and this is your Y axis. So we're gonna have to, maybe let's just try X equals 0. Moves it right to the middle. That's not a bad spot, although I think we wanna move it right to here, if that makes sense. Right to the edge corner of the map. So we're gonna boost our number into the positive. Let's try 150. And we want a higher negative value, if that makes sense. So more negative to get it closer to the edge. All right, here we are on the custom battle screen. And there it is, Helsingborg. I didn't change this yet, so not an issue. We're gonna just hit continue and load this battle map up. If all goes well, we won't crash right now, and we will have our custom battle map created. Now, of course, I didn't put any time or care into setting this one up, but you guys will be able to spend the time to get everything looking nice, and you can make balanced maps. I think that's the approach that CA took when they originally made the maps for this game. I don't like that, however. I like a map that reflects a historical place, and that's gonna mean it's not balanced, which is fine. It makes it a fun challenge, in my opinion. So that's the way I would do it if it was me, and it is me. So there you go. But we have our map. Here's a little forest and some houses. All that good stuff is there to be made. Once again, I should be releasing actually a custom battle map packs relatively soon that should have some maps that I've made, and yeah, you guys can download and play multiplayer or whatever mod you have with that. But I hope this has been helpful. If you guys need any more help, make sure you check out the Discord that I have linked. And when I have time, I will get back to you. Things have been busy, so I can't say that it will be right away, but I would want to be in touch with people who have questions. And yeah, best of luck on your future map making skills. Make them beautiful and glorious and fun. Hope you guys enjoyed this little mini series, and yeah, leave a comment on what you would like to see next. Hope you guys have a good one, and until next time I see ya, bye.